So this is my 2019 Kawasaki Ninja ZX-6R. Just picked this up, traded in the CBR 650F for this bike. This is actually my third sports bike that I've had. I started riding with a Honda CBR 500R, which was a great learner bike. I spent about a year on that. Then when I moved down to Florida, I sold that bike so I didn't have to ship it and picked up the CBR 650F, which I rode around for a couple of years. I didn't put too many miles on it, only about 1,000. And it was cool. It was a sports bike, but it wasn't a super sports bike. And since it wasn't a commuter bike for me, which would have been a fantastic commuter bike, it just didn't have that wow factor when I was riding it around town. But that's what has led me to this bike. I've always wanted a super sports bike, and I actually wasn't even going to the bike shop to look at this one in particular. I got this at Champions, Honda and Kawasaki in Cocoa Beach, which is where I bought both the Honda Monkey and the CBR 650F. But I was there looking at a 2007 Honda CBR 1000RR in the Repsol library, and I've always loved the way that bike looks, and I saw it for a pretty low price, so I thought I'd go check it out. Unfortunately, it did look like a bike that was 12, 13 years old and had all kinds of dings and other things that I think would end up driving me nuts. But while I was there, because it started to rain, which was convenient for the dealership, I was taking a look at a new ZX-6R and sitting on it and just admiring it. And then the guy, Scott Ross, who's actually sold me my last two bikes, pointed out that they had one of these that only had 20 miles on it. Apparently somebody had bought it, thought that the riding position was too aggressive, and returned it pretty much immediately. So, I use used with air quotes, but since this was a used bike with 20 miles on it, I didn't have to pay the dealer prep fee and the assembly fee and some of those other fees that they add up. Plus, I saved a couple $1,000s off of the sticker price. They also gave me a fantastic trade-in value for the CBR 650F. Did only have 1,000 miles on it, but they gave me $5,100 for it, which was more than I was expecting. So with the high trade-in value and the low cost of the bike, the out-the-door price was only a few $1,000s, and I couldn't resist. So unplanned, but really happy to have this. I actually already have ordered the Yoshimura exhaust and Yoshimura tail tidy, and have some plans for other carbon fiber bits on this bike. But wanted to introduce you to it first because I plan to have a whole bunch of videos coming to the channel as I ride around on it more, do some moto vlogs, some of the modifications that I have planned. This bike also has a lot of really cool features. I really like the setup of the gauge cluster, the analog circular tack, and then there's some technology in this bike too. It has power modes, low and high. I've actually been keeping it on low because almost all of my rides have had some rain so far. And as I get used to it, I want to be mindful of this bike having a lot more torque than my 650F did. And it also has traction control. So it has settings off, 1, 2, and 3 that are mindful of wheel spin. So depending on how much wheel spin you're accepting of, you can have it effectively cut out the ignition if it's a sensing wheel spin. So I'm leaving that in 2. I don't ride aggressively enough to get any wheel spin typically anyway, but figured I'd leave it on since in rainy situations, if I do start slipping out, maybe it can do a bit to help right me in those situations. This bike also has a quick shifter, which is a cool thing that I didn't know about until I bought the bike and started riding it around. But over, I think, about 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, you actually don't need to clutch in on the left with the lever. You can actually just flip up the shifter and it'll pop it into the next gear seamlessly. So you don't have to even let off the throttle. It'll just cleanly put it into the next gear for you, and it feels almost like one continuous gear, like those CVT transmissions in cars. Coming down the gears, there's no auto blipper, so you actually do need to clutch in as you're going down the gears. But it's going up the gears that you're excited about anyway, as you're blasting through each gear. Not having to let off the throttle or be mindful of the clutch is a pretty cool feeling. So I've been enjoying playing with that. But anyway, that's about it. Just wanted to introduce you to the bike before I started doing modifications to it, and tell you a bit about what happened to the 650F that's been here in my garage for most of my videos. I am hoping to put a bit more miles on this than I did the 650F. Thanks for checking out this bike. Look forward to more videos. Appreciate all the subscribers, and stay tuned for more videos. Thank you.